What's up, fuckers? It's tea time. Today we have the personification of the 7 deadly sins. Well, 6 of them. Anyone who endorses pumpkin tits after he calls their wife ugly and father a murderer doesn't have an ounce of pride in him, but worry not. There is more than enough greed seeping through this gluttonous snollygoster's rancid pores to make up for that. Other than pride, the only thing I see missing here is Princess Leia in chains and a bikini. Just kidding. Ted already has a pet. That little dog that was named after him. Snowflake. Ted is very sensitive. I imagine it stems from that Funko Pop-sized head or ample nostrils that are always glistening like sunlight on a lake. Y'all remember in 2016 when Ted ate a booger on TV? It wasn't sugar-coated like Don Jr.'s, but I know he enjoyed it just the same. But that sensitivity is what brings on Ted's wrath, which isn't a good thing for a politician, but especially Ted. If he gets too hot-headed, we might have a grease fire on our hands. That hair is greasier than a bicycle chain. Which reminds me, today Ted's hair is being sponsored by Pennzoil. The proof is in the Pennzoil. I'm kidding. Ted gets his money from the NRA, and Lobotomy Bobert gets her money from Fledcan Cruise. Almost $140,000 to be exact. But we'll talk about that hollow-headed hoochie another day. Today's about Teddy, and I can hear you heavy mouth breathing from over here, Ted. Everything Ted does triggers my fight or flight, and I don't know how to fly. But he does, though, all the way to Cancun while we were here freezing to death. Then he blamed it on his children, which is very on brand for Ted. Ted never seems to have the backs of children. Buckle up, bitches, here we go. Just days after 19 children were slaughtered in Uvalde in another mass shooting, Ted spoke at an NRA meeting. Oopsie-doopsie. To let us all know that our country's problem with mass shootings isn't about guns and never has been. This Nra-Hole suggests the blame for violence lies with a failure of culture, and not the fact that buying a gun is almost as easy as buying a pack of fucking bubble gum. Ted wants to ban books instead of bullets, books like Anti-Racist Baby. But it's not only books. It appears he wants to ban doors too. He wants school buildings having just one point of entry, heavily guarded by multiple armed police officers or military veterans. And I'm just wondering if it's the police officers who stood outside the school for 45 minutes while a gunman gunned down the school children, or if it's the veterans that he voted against in 2014, just for my records. And per my records, what Ted voted against in 2014 was the largest piece of veterans legislation in decades, aimed at expanding health care, education, and other benefits for veterans. Just in case any red voting veterans wanted to write that down. Now, Ted also says the arguments about gun problems in the U.S. are being pushed by elites who dominate our culture, a group that he said includes the rich and powerful, media figures and celebrities who can afford an indulgent ideology. Let's talk about rich and powerful. In 2019, the NRA spent over $3 million to benefit the political campaigns of senators who oppose gun safety legislation. In 2020, they spent over $2 million, throwing money at senators who oppose gun reform, like expanding Brady background checks and banning assault weapons. And Big Ted Cruz is one of the top recipients of political contributions from the NRA and other gun rights contributors. He's raked in almost $750,000 over his entire career, so I wouldn't believe a fucking word that comes out of his mouth about anything, but especially on the subject of guns not being the issue in mass shootings. The problem is guns, and we'll never make any progress on gun reform until the organizations who rely on a lack of gun control are no longer allowed to buy politicians' votes. Ted Cruz has put a price tag on your children, and the only way to show Teddy that your children are priceless is by voting blue. Now, I want everybody to have a great fucking day unless you support this bloated, booger-eating bitch.
In federal spending, specifying exactly what I would cut. It's easy to say it, but one of the great disconnects of all the people, all of the voters, I understand the folks who are supporting Donald right now. You're angry at Washington, and he uses angry rhetoric.